And I told him too that I was having a problem with some people, you know, kind of sabotaging my work, and I thought, well, maybe this might help with that. And so I was asking him different questions, and he was helping me pick out the right kind. And then I said to him, you know, I was still living in the place in Arlington, Virginia at the time, but I thought that things might go downhill, possibly. I just thought, because so many people had been shoving me out from one place to another, basically from one man to another, who was connected with the federal government, from one federal government employee to another federal government employee. And it happened so quickly that I never knew when it might happen next. And since I was pregnant, I was worried because I had already been assaulted. I mean, I'd had someone using technology against me and my unborn child at the place in Arlington, Virginia. So my fear was that the next thing that might happen is I might be out of a place to stay there, because if someone's doing that there, I wasn't sure. At the very first, I thought maybe it's the Moroccan guy, my housemate. I thought, well, his bedroom is right next door. I mean, what is he doing? He's directing something towards me from through the wall, from his bedroom. I mean, I didn't know what to think. And then I also saw the Pentagon. I knew that helicopter had been right up to my window, so I thought maybe it's that. And when it's telecommunications, I thought this has to be the government. But then you wonder, well, maybe it's maybe it's just the phone company. Maybe it's just horrible people who are patching you through to all kinds of crazy places, and it doesn't have to do with the government. I was really very delayed in my willingness to accept the idea that it was the United States government. So, but I was worried that it could be true. You know, if I needed a place to stay down the road, it would be good to know somebody who I could possibly stay with. And so I said to him, I was just wondering, you know, if I've been through some weird situations, and I don't know if you know of anybody that I might be able to stay with for a short time if I'm out of housing for any reason. I said, nothing's happening right now. I said, I don't have anything going on, and I have a good place to stay, but I'm just concerned that, you know, a few times I've been out of housing, all of a sudden I'm pregnant, and I just didn't know if maybe you know of something. And he said, yeah. He said, take my phone number. He said, actually, you could stay with us for a little while. And so I took his phone number, and then I thought, okay, now I have my base covered there. You know, if I wanted to stay where I was, but I thought, except for the torture, you know, to my unborn child. But I thought, if something happens with that, and I need to go somewhere, then I have something ready. And instead, what happened is, like, you know, he made a quick phone call one time while I was in that apartment, standing at my window looking across at the Pentagon, and I'm talking to him on the phone and laughing and chatting and everything. The next thing I know, my Moroccan housemate's leaving his apartment. And then I'm being forced out of work and my apartment. You know, no fault to the Moroccan guy, because he had to go when he had to go. But it was a little weird, the timing. And then my only option, which I had set up, but my only option was to go with this guy from Radio Shack and stay at his house in Maryland. So all of a sudden, I'm out of a job, out of an apartment, and only later, after I was staying with them, did I find out that they're connected to the CIA. Okay, so let's see. Military. I've got, you know, military connecting me to military, kind of I'm being swapped from one place to the next. FBI. Exact same thing. And then it could have been CIA somewhere along the line before that time, and I just didn't know because nobody told me or said anything. But when I was then at their house, they told me that they worked as guards for the CIA. I said, oh, which one? And they told me which one. And by then, you're in Washington, D.C., nobody is treating you the way they treat you in Wenatchee. Like, you must be delusional if you ever met anybody from the FBI. I mean, if you're in Washington, D.C., people believe whatever you say because the CIA is everywhere. The FBI is everywhere. I mean, every third person is a government employee. Every second person is your government employee. And basically, I told him when I got my things and then I was moving to his place. I mean, for all I know, the Moroccan guy was a CIA employee. And then he found out, you know, some guard who lived with somebody had given me the phone number, so, you know, he decided to close shop with his place because I was going to go over there. I don't know. The one other place that I stayed one time for a really short time, it was just like a couple of weeks, was with a man who was from Pakistan. And the Pakistanis I thought were very nice. I mean, most of them are very nice. I met one of them sometimes in a coffee house in Arlington, Virginia, when I lived at the high-rise in Arlington, Virginia. He was very nice. I don't know who he was connected to, but I never gave names of one person from Pakistan to another because I was told not to, and I think that's how people prefer it in general in DC. People don't really, if they're just getting to know you and being friendly, they don't really like to have their name passed around a lot. So I didn't do that. And also in some countries probably it's dangerous because different people have different political alliances. And not everybody needs to know everyone's business. So I met one Pakistani man, just chatted with him. He bought me coffee a couple times there. But I never went out with him anywhere. I mean, we didn't go out together. We talked in a public place. And then I met a different Pakistani man in a different way. It was sort of roundabout way. And he let me stay at his place when I was in between places for about 2 weeks. And then he sort of wondered if maybe there would be something romantic. And I wasn't interested. I mean, I wasn't interested with anybody really at the time. I was trying to focus really hard on my son at that point. And so I think then he felt that it was too uncomfortable for us to be in the same place in that situation, which is understandable. And then I had to look for a different place, you know, to be. But he had hardly anything in his refrigerator. I couldn't believe it. But then what he did have, it was amazing. It was really good Pakistani food. And, you know, I don't know who made it. And he said it was leftovers. I mean, like some of it was stuff. I mean, he hadn't anticipated having me needing a place to stay. And I think either he had made it or he got it from a restaurant or something. Possibly he had made it. And it was just it was really, really good. And he also, the only other thing that I really remember about his whole house, all I remember about his house is Mickey Mouse, that his daughter liked Mickey Mouse. He had a daughter in Pakistan. I remember that I had Pakistani food from his fridge that was like almost bare, and it was very good. And the other thing I remember is that he had this huge photo album of Princess Diana. And so that was something that at that time I had in common with him to talk about, because I had just kind of recently, in that maybe last half a year to a year, I think probably right before I went to Canada, discovered Diana. I'd never had in my entire life, and the only reason I did is because her name happened to show up when I was looking up articles about people who are being defamed by being called mentally ill. And then because she's a popular figure, I saw that she had been called, she was, you know, named a couple of times. And then, so then I was sort of curious to know what her situation was, like why she was being called paranoid, because they were calling me paranoid. So that is the entire reason why I ever developed any interest at all in Princess Diana. It had nothing to do with her being royalty. I mean, there are tons of royal persons in the world, and I didn't have any kind of fixation on that at all. I didn't really care about popular figures too much. The only thing that caught my attention is that I identified with that because I was being called mentally ill and paranoid when I wasn't, and then horrible things were happening to me and my son. So I was, her name happened to show up a couple times, and I thought that was weird, and then I read about her case and different things, and that was, why I had any interest at all. And I hadn't really talked about it too much. I pretty much forgot about it during the whole trying to get political asylum thing. And then it really wasn't until I was in D.C., maybe I mentioned it briefly to someone, or I started looking it up a little bit again. And then I met this guy who, a lot of Pakistanis liked her because she dated some Pakistanis. Well, not because of that, but she was just well known. And so I talked with him about her a little bit and what I thought, and looked at the photo album. And then I know that I, for some reason, had picked up this one. Somebody gave me a book, and it was a book about either Iran or Pakistan. And sort of from somebody who had a civil rights, like from a feminist from one of those countries, and talking from a feminist slant. And they gave it to me, and I didn't know why they gave it to me, and so I just threw it in my bag because it was given to me, and I hadn't read the back of it. I hadn't even looked at the inside. I just thought it was some kind of literary novel. So here I had it in my bag, and he went through my bag when I wasn't there, which is fine because I was in his house, and I didn't really expect him not to. But then he said, "What's this?" And he kind of got freaked out about it, and I think it was because it looked like, why did I already have a book about Iran or Pakistan in my bag? And then maybe he thought that he had just offered a place for me to stay, and why would I be carrying something like that if I'm just this person who is not politically motivated anyway and just, is being harassed by the United States. So he kind of was like offended by that maybe, and was like, "What's this?" And I didn't know how to explain it to him. I was like, "I don't know, it's a book that somebody gave me." And he wasn't too happy about it. It was pretty much very close to that time. He was very polite, but I needed to find a place to go. So then I did. I looked for something, and staying with him was just for a couple of weeks. But it was before I was in the high-rise in Arlington, Virginia, and possibly before even that. But I think by that time I had enough money of my own to look for a room for rent. So I did pay for the first time for my own room to rent, and that's where I was. Then I was kind of, as I say, thrust into this position of being with this other person that I hadn't wanted to just move in with. It was just, an emergency kind of contact, I thought. And I didn't know they were connected to the CIA. And when I was pregnant at the time, I was having some weird, I thought complications a little bit, and some pain and some weird things happening. And I asked him to take me to the hospital, so he did. First we were at his house, and then he asked which hospital did I want to go to, or I asked which hospitals were around, and then he was taking me to this one hospital. And when he left, I don't know, I had a weird feeling. I remember the look on his face, like it wasn't like he was my friend. At the Radio Shack, he had really acted like he was my friend. I thought he was a really friendly person, and seemed really open-eyed and nice and everything. And by the time when he was dropping me off